All right, one of you is a former Navy SEAL. One of you is a film director.
Guess
Who's
which?
who? Marcus, thank you for your service. Thank you for all that you've done for this country.
Thanks for having me. Thank you.
Tell us a little bit about your story and how we ended up here.
So we'll just start. I spent 13 years on active duty. As you mentioned, I was a Navy SEAL and enjoyed every moment of it. Towards the latter part of my career, started experiencing, I call like the hidden wounds of war.
Yep.
And in 2010, I started seeing some doctors, and I got prescribed my first antidepressant. And from there, I was on them for 7 years. And as we know now, antidepressants fail about 50% of the people who are prescribed them. And I was one of them. And so I wish that someone gave me a lifeline earlier, but for me, it was 7 years of failed treatments.
Right.
And lucky for me, my wife Amber is working in the background with a few doctors and organized me to go down to Mexico and do an experimental investigative psychedelic drug called ibogaine. Most people never heard of it. I never heard of it.
Right.
When I grew up in New York, I went to Catholic high school. For me, this was extremely foreign. It was
also,
weird.
normally people go to Mexico to do drugs and they don't tell their wives.
Exactly. This was the opposite. So go down to Mexico, do a psychedelic, and you're going to get better. So that's kind of how this got presented to me.
John, how did you end up making a film about it, and why is that important for you?
Well, Amber and Marcus started talking about this amazing treatment that he got in Mexico in 2017. Mm-hmm. We heard about it a couple of years later, and we thought, Navy SEALs tripping balls? There's just something, there's got to be a story there. Right. In all seriousness, we met Amber and Marcus, and they told us their story, and we were just immediately hooked. And in the film, you see their backstory, you experience it with them, and then in the film, you get to go kind of inside their heads because we do this animation that simulates the ibogaine experience.
Beautiful animation. We'll talk about that in a second. But one of the things that blew me away is military members are committing suicide almost 4 times here in the United States, more than combat deaths over there in war. And it's wild to me. We think about the lives over there, but we almost forget about the lives here. And what are we missing? What are the civilians missing about when you come back?
So, Michael, to put it in context, we lost roughly 7,000 those killed in combat since 9/11. Today, we have over 150,000 veterans that have died by suicide.
Yeah.
And many people don't know that number. That's a huge number. And so, what are we doing? What's wrong?
Yeah.
Is it the system? Is it the individuals? Nobody has the answer, right? But it's happening, and we need to do something about it. We don't need to keep sending people to Mexico to do an experimental drug. We need to have research here and do it here.
It feels like there's boot camp, and I'm a civilian. Mm-hmm. I played college tennis. So just forgive me for not knowing the terminology, but there's boot camp, there's training to go in. But what happens when you come out?
There's not a lot of training. There are some programs set up, but they almost look like they're a check in the box for many. And most of us, especially in the special operations community, we kind of go out and we try to do it on our own. We did it on our own with teammates while we're in, and we try to do the same thing when we're out. It's very difficult, transitioning, running around the mountains of Afghanistan, and next thing you know, you're in a shirt and tie working in downtown Beverly Hills, on a private bank team. And so two different environments.
One of the parts of the film that was so moving was you're sharing combat stories, and then 48 hours later, your families are talking about, you're sitting at the dinner table, but it looks like they're gone. They're not there. And I'm thinking, how the hell do you go from combat in Afghanistan to sitting with your family having dinner? What was, and I don't even know if I'm using the right word, but what is the experience of taking the medicine or the drug actually like? You share it very well in the film, but explain to us how that goes down.
I tell most people who watch the film, John and the team did an extremely good job in showing what the experience was like.
Yeah.
Except for being on the drug itself.
Right.
But it was a long experience. ibogaine it's a long duration. It's about 6 to 8 hour peak experience.
Wow.
It's not fun.
It's not fun.
It's very difficult. They call it the grandfather of psychedelics. It's a very difficult experience. And the more garbage that you have, those things turn up during these experiences. And so think of taking 5 to 10 years of talk therapy and literally putting in a couple hours in a night.
God.
And so there's a lot, and you got to prepare. And so you get filled with and get rushed with all these different.
Are you alone? Are you with people?
No, you're with
Is it
everybody.
safe?
It's extremely safe. You're with the whole medical team, and you do a ton of blood work before. You can screen out. It has a potential heart risk, so you do EKG. You can't have any stimulants in the system. You can't have any alcohol. So it's a very clinical medical procedure. But once you go in the experience, the individuals are watching you. Usually there's a therapist there, there's nurses there, cardiologist is there. So
the animation's amazing. I mean, you feel like you're in their brain. Did you have to coach the animators on that? Did they get it? Because most animators do a lot of drugs anyways. How did that go about? And what was it like seeing your experience animated?
Well, we interviewed dozens of special operators who had been down to Mexico to do the treatment, and one thing that always comes up after ibogaine is they describe it like seeing a movie or a slideshow of your life. It's kind of this life review. And we knew right away we had to put that on screen somehow. And we were lucky to work with these incredible animators in England that ended up doing this thing where you're kind of in the present tense, but you're sort of watching scenes that happened from your life, and you're suddenly able to get insight into that kind of psychological perspective that you might have had difficult getting before the ibogaine. That's really the magic of the drug.
Yeah. What was it like seeing your experience animated? Have you even seen the film, Marcus?
I have.
You're in it.
I have.
You're in it.
Is it
so,
good?
No, it's
Is it
great.
good?
It's
All right.
but I don't watch myself.
We worked with John. We worked with John and Bonnie, who are just incredible award-winning filmmakers for years on this. So we were part of the whole process, and I think initially it was over 4 hours and got cut down, but I think they completely nailed it. I was extremely happy, and it premiered at Telluride, and so the team went to Telluride, and we were so nervous watching it because we didn't know what the audience, how they were going to react. And after the movie was over, we showed it twice, 2 standing ovations, and I kind of just put my head in my lap and was just like, oh, like it was received well, and I think we did and got across the message we were trying to get across.
The day they came to San Francisco, where we're based, to see the rough cut for the first time was one of the most nervous days of our life. It's so personal, you know, you're putting on screen just the most intimate scenes from these people's lives.
But that is what connects about the film, is I'm sitting on my couch watching these heroes, these men, shedding it and crying and sharing the experiences that we, civilians on the other side, we prefer to not think about what's actually happening over there. So, a tremendous job. The irony isn't lost on me that American veterans have to go to a different country, not this country, to get help. You've been showing the film for some legislators, right? Some state legislators. Tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah, as you probably know, the zeitgeist around psychedelics is changing. You know, it's not the 1970s anymore. We realize that these drugs should not be Scheduled 1, the most dangerous,
It's labeled as Scheduled 1, which is the most illegal in this country.
High ability for abuse with no medical piece to the drug.
And we're realizing, as Marcus often says, that the opposite is kind of true, right? There's clearly some value here. And in the film, you see the Stanford team studying ibogaine in particular. But yes, in Texas, in California, in South Carolina, there's starting to be movement. States are passing laws to funnel money from opioid abatement programs over to ibogaine research because the drug can be so effective with addiction issues.
Wow.
So we're starting to see some movement, and we're hoping the federal government changes laws as well.
Tell us, Marcus, tell us a little bit about Veterans Exploring Treatment Solutions.
So when I came back from my treatment, Amber, I saw her immediately, and she could just tell. She just said, "I haven't seen this in 20 years."
You came back?
I came back
from the trip, and your wife said,
she met me.
I can tell something's different.
She said I walked around the corner, and she said, like, you could just see this glow, and I didn't have this dark look anymore. And I didn't say I was okay.
Wives, man, they are just
they're
always paying attention.
I wish we could listen to them a lot earlier, right? But she's always right. And I didn't say I'm better. We just kind of embraced, and I just said, this is it. This is exactly what the guys need. I said, we just need to figure out a way to pay this forward, and that's what started our work.
So your work helps other veterans go down and do this?
So I tell everybody, with glue and tape, we put together a nonprofit. We didn't know what we were doing, but we wanted to pay it forward, just like it was for me.
Yeah.
And we started, we received our charity status in 2019, and to date now we've put over 1,200 individuals fully paid for treatment, but we've helped thousands now through the movie and through word of mouth, and so the word's getting out there. And
What does it cost, and what's the time commitment for something like this?
It's quite expensive. You know, we'll have to have insurance coverage in the future. It's roughly $10,000 to $12,000 per individual. But when you think about what that does for generations, that's like a small.
I tell you what, I've definitely spent that on talk therapy.
100%. Exactly.
Yeah, when you think about kind of an upfront cost versus an expense that goes on for years and years and years, it's actually a relatively cost-effective thing to do.
If people are feeling pain, you want them to feel better. And one of the things that was so interesting was I expected through some of these medicine, drug experiences that they would be reliving combat experiences. But for some of the subjects, they almost were reliving childhood trauma that was unrelated.
That was the
wild.
big surprise for Bonnie and me as we went through this. When we started interviewing folks ahead of time who had done the treatment, of course, we talked to Marcus and Amber about this, is that they very often get under the influence of ibogaine, and they are actually reliving experiences that are trauma relived from their childhood.
Yeah.
And they're starting to think about, why did I become a soldier in the first place?
Yeah.
These are very kind of deep, profound things, and the kind of things that might come up in 20 years of talk therapy, right? That was really kind of the big picture lesson for us. Is this is not just a story for veterans, it's a story for so many people who are walking around with trauma in this country and around the world.
Excellent film. Thank you for making it. Last question, Marcus. What advice would you have for a younger Navy SEAL or someone starting out now, entering the path that you've already been down? What would you say?
If I had to do it all over again, I'd still do it. You know, you still, many football players have head trauma. They'd still go out and play football because it's your love, it's your passion, it's what you want to do. And I say, go do that. But I say, take care of yourself. If you need to take a pause, take a pause. If you want to go back into fighting, go back into fighting. If you want to get out and do something else, do something else. But, just be mindful of how you feel, because our systems, they're just not made to go 1,000 RPM consistently. For many, some of my friends, 20 and 30 years, over 15 combat deployments, they're on that red line forever. And so, sometimes you just need to take a pause.
Thank you very much for making the film. Thank you for sharing your story. In Waves and Wars, available to stream on Netflix. For more information on Marcus' organization, go to vetsolutions.org. Marcus Capone and Jon Shenk.